Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here basically we are talking about the city creation. In this basically we are talking about the Chile basically. So assume that basically Uttar Pradesh also here basically we saw that basically that Uttar Pradesh also basically got the earthquake, right? Basically assume that basically Uttar Pradesh also basically was creating that Chile only. Same example we will take in Uttar Pradesh. Here the difference is just the state basically. In the state basically entire few city basically was creating chili basically, and that basically he has eaten, he basically consumed in the foods basically what the foods basically which he was having, that basically created problem to his same basically stomach, head, eye. Here basically I will take head basically, his private part and his leg basically. So what are the things going to happen? Same thing basically will happen, that is his four body parts basically was damaged, so his earthquake is going to happen, that is Uttar Pradesh basically is going to get earthquakes. The reason was due to that chili basically, due to that bad chili basically, his 3 to 4 body parts basically was damaged, and that body parts was damaged of the world, sorry, the blood group owner basically, and that basically blood group owner basically was connected with how many people? 90 crore people basically, not one or two basically, 90 crore. So that 90 crore is going to affect basically after certain days basically, sorry, after certain month basically. So they immediately basically given case to the World Health Organization. They done some manipulation, and after the manipulation they told that basically you can give this medicine basically after checking the blood cells basically. Blood cells basically they checked in this basically time period, the World Bank get the information basically, because this type of information immediately basically World Bank gets the information. So basically they given the information basically to the World Health Organization, and in this basically they got the information, and immediately they given the medicine basically to that particular person, and then basically his body pain was basically gone from the all the four parts basically. Like this basically, that power data also basically was collected, that power data also was collected, and that bad power supply basically was also passed, and the new data also basically passed. So here basically how power company is going to compare this data, that basically they only knows how they are going to send, because original data they have to send, that was the bad data which was generated due to Uttar Pradesh and Bihar basically, sorry, Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat basically. That data they have to send basically, they must have to send basically, they have to send that data basically. But here few people told that basically the earthquake is not supposed to come. For that basically what we can do, for that basically the power company only basically can do, how they will handle the situation basically, that they only can understand basically, because they have to pass this data basically simultaneously basically. Simultaneously means at the same time basically, but how they will handle this, that basically they only knows basically how they are going to handle, because the original data you have to pass, that is the rule of the universe basically, that this incidence has generated, you have to show that incidence basically, and due to that chili basically the infection was happened, that you have to show basically, that due to that land basically this infection was happened basically, that also you have to tell basically, because you have to tell the disease, and on the basis of that disease only basically this medicine was prepared basically. So that basically you have to tell basically, because if you are giving medicine basically, right, if you are giving the medicine, then you have to give the disease also basically, what was that disease basically. So that disease was basically that city basically data, and that city data basically generated that disease, and then basically the medicine basically was given. So like this basically things are basically there. So this was the best example basically. On the base of this example basically we can able to understand basically how the earthquakes actually works basically. This was the basically best example of the earthquakes basically. This is one story basically, right? Another story basically we saw long before basically, how basically that generates earthquakes. There are like this basically, there are many types of earthquakes basically. We actually saw many types of earthquake actually. We had a discussion long before basically, the types of earthquakes basically are there. So this is all, these two are also basically one of the earthquakes basically, types of earthquakes basically, which earthquakes happens basically. So this is also one of the type basically we can say basically of the earthquakes, and these all are basically very dangerous, very dangerous basically. So earthquakes are actually very dangerous. For example, the city basically who was giving the medicine of assume that it was giving the medicine of sperm basically. Sperm means basically the sperm means from where the from how basically the child basically birth gets basically, right? Without sperm basically the woman basically can't get pregnant. That sperm basically. Assume that basically due to some reason basically the or basically E blood group people basically E blood group owner basically got some sperm infection basically. Assume that basically, and that basically created problem to his life also basically. That basically converted to 90 crore people also basically. That's sperm disease basically. So now what are the things going to happen basically? Immediately basically they were not able to solve the problem, and then basically they given this data to satellite group. Then basically they tracked that basically there was some conflict basically happened, and due to that conflict basically that sperm basically was generated. The reason basically was uh, this basically very less people might be the people basically who are actually experts in the sexuality basically, they basically can understand basically. For example, the person basically had a relationship with few girls basically. Assume that basically he basically might be having 4 5 girlfriends basically. So that time basically what happened when the sperm basically was generated basically, that time basically he had done the sexual activity with 4 5 girls basically long before basically. That that same time basically, that same energy basically was generated at that same time basically. Due to that basically what happened, the sperm basically got infected basically. Due to that basically his sperm basically got infected basically. Infection basically happened in the sperm basically. Due to that basically what happened, the 90 crore people also basically got infected basically. So people basically the World Health Organization told that basically this was some universal level problem basically. That was related to some time basically. So that case basically they have given to that particular people basically, and then basically they told that basically this was the issue basically. Due to that basically the problem basically came. This connects to that data basically. When you do the thumb basically, that time basically that data basically comes inside the screen basically. It was connected to that basically. So there was some conflict in the data basically. Due to that basically which happened basically. So due to that basically happened. So that also converted into some energy level effect basically. So this was also basically one of the reason basically where earthquakes happen basically. Like this basically many reasons are basically there. Many reasons basically. One of the person told that when he was basically sitting the blood group owner basically, that is the fifth E blood group owner basically, when he was sitting in the computer that time basically he was basically chatting in the Facebook, and he basically got some eye attraction. Eye attraction basically from video basically he got eye attraction, and something basically entered in his eye basically. That time basically somebody has fired from that video basically, and that video basically was related to some energy basically. If you have that energy in your body, then basically you will do this type of activities. So entire activities was defined in that energy basically. The exactly same thing basically he basically done. But in that basically what happened, when he done the activities exact same thing basically, that time basically he generated some disease basically. But doctor basically was not able to track up to this level basically. That was actually the digital error basically. This is actually the digital world, and this is the most dangerous world basically. I'm telling you, this is going to create big issue basically in the future basically for the doctors basically, if they are not controlling the digital world. So in next video basically we are going to see the challenges basically which doctors are going to face in the era of the digital world. That is basically that video attraction basically.